because we were going out and giving Dawa every day, and we had, we were getting filmed, and, there's that issue with sincerity. You always have a camera on your face. So you said, listen, what we do is we give Dawa now. Cameraman, he, heads off to the hotel.
Takes his footage.
I said, now we just focus on Dawa, no cameras, just, and then.
And now you've just told everyone our good deeds.
Rio de Janeiro, yeah.
And subhanAllah, we've got a few stories. I remember when we was just giving Dawa on the Copacabana beach, right? It's probably the most fitna in the world at that point, because Brazil had just won like a match, and everyone's partying. But Dawa has to go on, right? Dawa to Christians, and you actually opened my eyes to the problem of atheism, not just in the non-Muslim community, but also how the Muslim youth are actually becoming affected by it, etc. And how it's such an easy thing to deal with. I think I called you actually. I said, look, Dawkins has got a book signing in Cambridge or Oxford, I think it was Cambridge. At Blenheim Palace. And I said, I'm going to go down. The ticket's like 20 quid. You want to come with me? I said, I'll get you a ticket. And you couldn't make it.
I was in Birmingham.
But you were like, no, you have to go, John. So I found a car, and I didn't have a car at the time. I managed to get a car or someone. I'm going down, and I've got my friend with me, Yusuf, and the idea was that I was going to get him. At the time, of course, it was the age of Dawa, where you get a cameraman and you pull up on someone and just start talking to them. I want to kind of see what you guys are doing. Make sure that I'm not going to release something that's contradictory, or maybe I've misunderstood a point. I can also benefit from them books as well. So, and there's no rushing Dawa, bro. Like, why are we rushing? Bro, I'm 34, man. I know I look 50, right? But what is the rush? Even if it takes another 20 years, bro, who am I? Does Islam need my book? No.
إنك لا تهدي من أحببت ولكن الله يهدي من يشاء.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah, it's John Fontain. Just before we begin the podcast, please make sure you click subscribe and also set your notifications. And make sure you check out the earlier podcasts. We've up to around 40 podcasts so far. There's lots of podcasts there for you to benefit from. Make sure you check that out. Also, if you can go to the John Fontain YouTube channel as well, click subscribe, set your notifications, and also enjoy the other videos. There's a Fiqh of Love series, a series on Christianity, and other videos regarding Dawa. Also, if you'd like to support the podcast by supporting us financially with the equipment and the travel costs and the running costs, not just of the podcast, but also the other Dawa activities I'm involved in, please support on the Patreon account. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Welcome to the Young Smirks podcast. I'm with my good friend from back in the day, Suboor Ahmad. Assalamu alaikum, bro.
Walaikum salam. How you doing?
How you doing?
Very happy to see you today.
Subhanallah.
Whenever I see you, I get nostalgic.
I was looking at the old Brazil videos the other day, and quite recently, I don't know, people seem to be watching them old videos. They stuck at home in the lockdown. And they're probably Googling like Brazilian beaches or something, and they come across.
Well, I'm sure they're looking at Brazil now.
But yeah, subhanAllah, we went to our first main Dawa was we went to Brazil together, didn't we? For the World Cup.
Yeah, it was 2014. 6 years ago.
We looked young then as well.
We did. We were both. Were we married at the time?
No, young and innocent.
I was married. I think I'm not sure if you were married at the time, but I was newly married, and young and innocent. 6 years ago.
So it was an interesting time. We spent a whole month giving Dawa.
22 days, I think. Something like this.
In Sao Paulo and Rio
de Janeiro.
And subhanAllah, we've got a few stories. I remember when we was just giving Dawa on the Copacabana beach. Right, it's probably the most fitna in the world at that point, because Brazil had just won like a match, and everyone's partying. but Dawa has to go on, right?
Yeah.
So we're giving Dawa, and then it's time to pray. And I can't remember what happened. I think we just decided to pray on the street. We were like...
No, but we prayed. You see, there's a road, another road in between.
Yeah.
We were praying there.
And you said, call the adhan.
Yeah.
Not just pray.
Yeah.
Call the adhan.
Yeah.
So I'm like, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. In the middle of Copacabana Beach, right? Just off the...
And people used to watch us pray.
Yeah. And subhanAllah, the Brazilians are very open, right?
Very nice.
And we were praying. And do you remember that couple that came up?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
They accepted Islam, yeah.
And they said, look, you gave us this leaflet like an hour
ago. And then they were looking for us.
Yeah, they said, and we've been looking for you. And then we heard the adhan, we seen you. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, good
and you know about that,
yeah.
Because we were going out and giving Dawa every day, and we had, we were getting filmed, and there's that issue with sincerity. You always have a camera on your face. So you said, listen, what we do is we give Dawa now. Cameraman, he heads off to the hotel,
takes his footage.
I said, now we just focus on Dawa, no cameras, just and
now you've just told everyone our good deeds.
Yeah, well, I said it, not you, so that's good.
Just introduce yourself. You're Suboor Ahmad. You work at Ayera. What's your role in Ayera?
So I am the outreach manager, global outreach manager. So basically, all of our activities, global activities, Latin America, Africa, Asia, these types of places. I just basically work on that. We have outreach specialists across the world in 6 continents, and we're just looking to expand. So I just manage that. And Brazil is obviously way before this, but Brazil. We also one of the brothers we met, we actually ended up hiring him as well.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah, Eddie.
So how did you get into Dawa? Do you start with Dawa tables?
Standard Dawa tables, just giving out flyers. Street Dawa.
Because you was involved in them early Ayera big campaigns. Life isn't just a game.
It is life just a game. What's your goal? Who do you love? Don't shoot the messenger. World Dawa mission. These types of things. We even met at a Dawa stall in 2012.
Me and you.
Yeah.
In Manchester.
In Manchester. So I was basically, we went to the mosque, did Dawa training.
Is that where we met?
We met, yeah.
On my Dawa table.
Yeah, because we had a different Dawa table.
Oh yeah.
Basically, we didn't know you were there. You didn't know we were there.
Yeah.
And then what happened was we were giving Dawa. Then I decided to just walk around, and I saw you, just like some white guy, picking up.
I used to wear like a suit.
And you were
like
and you had more hair then as well. Yeah. And I saw you picking up Qur'ans from the floor, like English translation of the Quran, and it was a bizarre sight because here's a Dawa table, and here's some Qur'ans on the floor, and here's like a white guy in a suit picking them up. And I went up to you and I helped you, and I said, "What happened?" And you said an atheist came and said Dawkins is God or something, and just threw all the Quran on the floor and walked away. So that's how we met.
SubhanAllah.
We met at the Dawa stall.
And now you're you're one of the prominent guys who defend Islam from atheism. SubhanAllah, and that's how we met.
Yeah.
I remember one instance, because obviously my main focus is Christianity, right? That's what I try to focus on. But I remember a big eye-opener for me was when we was in Brazil. And I'm trying to tell you, we need to, give Dawa to Christians. And you actually opened my eyes to the problem of atheism, not just in the non-Muslim community, but also how the Muslim youth are actually becoming affected by it, etc. And how it's such an easy thing to deal with. Yeah. Because at the time I didn't know much about atheism. And people like yourself, Hamza, Imran Hussein, from your Dawa, Ayera, you've got like courses on atheism that clearly, very easily
refute this
in a simple way, answer all the doubts, that anyone who doesn't know. But the thing is, if you don't know anything about atheism, it can be a bit intimidating, You know, because you see these academics, these white Oxford University professors like Dawkins and all these people, you know, and you think, oh, you know, you have a bit of an inferiority complex. Even me, right?
Yeah.
You know, you look at these like big professors and you think, well, how am I going to deal with these guys? And then you come to your courses and you've got you and Hamza just refuting them on very easy points, you know.
There is that, but I think you're selling yourself a little bit short there. It's not just the case that you attend the course and you do well. It's just, you read a lot, and it's just about reading.
Yeah.
Now,
I mean, that was kind of my entrance.
Yeah, your
to
entrance.
atheism.
Yeah.
And you know, you really kind of on a one-on-one basis, you know, you taught me basically.
Yeah.
You basically
but then you went off and did your own thing.
But you basically translated Hamza's course for me.
Yeah.
Because Hamza, mashallah, very academic, and at the time, it was a lot to take in. And I remember me and Ghulam, Ghulam, we were sat in Hamza's course, and this was like the first time he'd presented the scientific miracle thing. And of course, at the time, everyone was on that Dawa, right?
Yeah.
And Ghulam said, "What do you think, John?" Like, I'm like, "What do you think?" And he said, "Are you still going to use it?" And I was like, "Well, it works. Science works." I wasn't, you know, it was like
everyone
it was hard to leave, and even some of our teachers, it was a very eye-opening experience to look at it from a different perspective, and alhamdulillah, of course, when you research more, it's obvious that, you know, we shouldn't really be jumping at these things in the Dawa. And that was a really eye-opening experience for me.
It is for many people, but I think, you know, once you just got your sort of foot in the door, then you just, you know, took off. I mean, you even ended up, you know, having a conversation with Dawkins eventually. Someone, once you know, then you're like, oh, of course I can talk to him.
I think I called you actually. I said, look, Dawkins has got a book signing in Cambridge or Oxford, I think it was Cambridge.
Cambridge, yeah.
At Blenheim Palace.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to go down. You know, the ticket's like 20 quid. You want to come with me?
Yeah.
You know, I said, I'll get you a ticket, you know. And you couldn't make it.
Yeah, I was in Birmingham.
But you were like, no, you have to go, John. So I found a car, and I didn't have a car at the time. I managed to get a car or someone. I'm going down, and I've got my friend with me, Yusuf, and the idea was that I was going to get him. At the time, of course, it was the age of Dawa, where you get a cameraman and you pull up on someone and just start talking to them. So I said to my friend, look, you hold the camera and just film me and Dawkins speaking, you know.
And he doesn't know you're Muslim, because you're both two white.
Exactly. I turn up,
and your beard was smaller, and
tweed jacket. You know, I looked the part, right. And after the book signing, I went up to him and I said, "Can I just have a picture?" So he stood up. So I know I've got that, you know, because the age of clickbait and all this stuff. And I just said, like, why do you hate Islam?
Well, even before that, you said there's something very interesting. You said to him, "I've read your book. It's really, really good."
Yeah.
So I've written a response to your book.
And no. Before that, I said, I just want to say, you've been a great inspiration to me. So now he's like,
you got really happy,
like, oh, you know. And then I said, especially in my new publication, The God's Solution, which is refuting the God delusion.
Yeah, I remember you saying, and you said, because I've seen the footage in the album, but you said it to him in a very nice way, like, I've written a refutation to your book.
But this didn't affect him, right? Because he presumed I'm a Christian. You know, I've got like at this point in time, he's still smiling, thinking, "Oh yeah, Christian," you know. And he's like, "Well, you think you've refuted it," you know. And I said, "No, I am." And that was it. And then I said, "Why do you hate Islam?" And his face turned red, and he became aggressive.
Yes.
He doesn't mind the Christian missionaries.
Yeah.
He can deal with that.
Yeah, he's used to it.
Christianity he can't deal with atheism, you know. But he knows Islam is a problem for him.
Yeah.
Because we accept science, we you know, and subhanAllah, that's when he turned.
Yeah.
And he changed.
Yeah.
And I said, "Why do you hate Islam when you openly admit that you've never read the Quran as an academic?" You know, he said, "Well, I don't have to read Mein Kampf to know the Nazis." I said, "Well, if you're an academic, you should probably read Mein Kampf, you know, as well, right? You know, if you're going to be an academic and you're going to deal with Nazism,
Yeah.
or if you're going to deal and make a career out of attacking Islam, you should read the Quran. And he jumped up, right? And he pushed me out of the way, and he ran for my camera.
Yeah, I remember, yeah.
And he started to strangle my friend, right? And he's strangling my friend. And my thing is like,
Get the footage.
forget my friend. You should, give me the camera, right? So I grabbed the camera, I took the memory card out, and now all of his security are coming. So I hid the memory card. I'm thinking, I can't lose this. This is gold dust. Right? And subhanAllah, he chased us out.
Yeah.
And my priority.
Went to the car park, right?
Yeah, he chased us in the car park, and then my battery's dead. And I'm thinking, how can I get rid of them, So I pulled out my phone, my battery's dead, and I pretended to film him. I said, carry on, Richard, you're making yourself look stupid, And then he backed off. And
But in the footage, you can see he goes for the camera.
yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
he stands up, then he's talking,
And he's
and then you just see.
he
and
says,
then
I hope you're not filming
Yeah,
this.
I hope you know. And then the camera just blurs out.
Yeah.
I mean, that scene, an academic. Look, I just want viewers to recognize this. You have
You know what?
an Oxford professor.
Should I release the footage in this podcast?
Ooh, you
Is it
should
time?
release. No.
Is it time?
Oh, okay. Let's do two commitments here. Yeah. The first commitment is we need to release the footage. The second commitment is you have to give a commitment that the book has to be out.
Yeah, just for those who are listening, I've been writing a book called The God Solution for about 20 years now.
You started in 2014.
2014. And Suboor, mashallah, you helped me a lot on the book, and Hamza.
Again, you're selling yourself short, but yeah.
No, but, alhamdulillah. And really, it's not, I wouldn't say it's, I would say, the likes of yourself, how the research from what you guys have done is,
Yeah. No, but the thing is, John, you built up a lot on that. It was like a skeleton, and you built on it,
I've tried to simplify it.
Yeah.
But
also, you bring in things from a sociological perspective, about the impact of religion and Islam and how it betters society and how it's a solution.
Yeah.
So,
well, the point is, I was planning on releasing the footage.
No, I don't think you
With
should.
the book.
With the book. I don't think
Yeah.
you should release it yet. Because it's going to give you an incentive, or else you're going to get lazy and not finish off the book. Because you're doing projects in Africa, you're doing this, you're doing that. It's good to give yourself a deadline. But let's move on to something here, yeah? Since that time, you made obviously videos. There's even that video you recently reposted, one of the Apple.
Yeah, I found it the other day.
Yeah, it's really funny one. So look, what I want to discuss with you is how do you think atheism is different in 2020 compared to 2014? This is a very interesting question, yeah? I have a few thoughts on my own, but I just wanted your thoughts on this as well.
I'd like to know your perspective, really, because you're more.
Okay, so firstly, it seems the atheist movement is really running out of steam. Yeah. So back then it was like a lot more rapid, a lot more strong, and then around the 2015, 2016, it maybe peaked, and then maybe it peaked before that. I'm not sure, but it just started going down. And what do I mean by that? People like Jordan Peterson came, right? He's talking about meaning of life. He's doing this, he's doing that. And a lot of people are attracted to him. Atheists are attracted to him. And he's talking about, life having meaning and this type of thing. Because atheism, what does it have to offer? If I was an atheist, if I was handing out pamphlets, it'd just be, welcome to atheism, and the pamphlet's empty. I mean, what is the meaning of life? Well, why do we exist? So there's that. The second point is that amongst their leaders, you see some of them they've gone in weird directions. Yeah. So look at Dennett. Dennett is just like not really active, not really doing much.
They're not really taken seriously in the atheist circles.
Yeah, in the atheist
even
circle.
Dawkins.
Even Dawkins as well. Like other atheists are like Michael Roos says, reading the God Delusion makes me embarrassed to be an atheist. And he says he would fail a basic theology, philosophy of religion, philosophy of whatever type of class, right? So there's that. The other thing is that there's a strong feeling that they need to provide answers to spirituality. So you see Sam Harris. Sam Harris is probably, I would say, he's on the sharper end of them. So Dawkins is a little bit dated. Yeah, he's still coming up with really ridiculous things like, the azan sounds really aggressive, the church bells sound nicer. He's just generally like an old an old, basically, guy who's out of date. Sam Harris realizes most people are searching for the big questions. So he's gone down the route of spirituality, atheist spirituality. He's written a book, Waking Up. He's talking about spirituality without God, spirituality without religion. He's even written about, on his blog, that listening to the sound of the Quran, it makes him feel a certain way, even though he believes Islam to be false. Sam Harris, really? He's written a blog on this, and he's even said that how Islam basically creates this ecstasy of feeling, through its recitation of the Quran and the spirituality, which leads eventually people to doing crazy things. So he believes that spirit, and in fact, he says, us atheists, we're going to lose out if we don't address spirituality. So what you find amongst them is fracture. They're moving away from their narrative. Their narrative was there's nothing but the physical world, and now they're talking about spirituality.
The thing with Sam Harris, like, he does that, but he also attacks Islam at the same time, where Peterson, he does that, but without attacking Islam, without attacking other people. He's seen this kind of evolution of atheism, of how they're trying to find solutions.
And the hardcore versions of them, Matt Delhunty, Aaron Ra, these guys, they're falling out of favor. You're also getting the rise of a new type of atheist, someone who I would say it's like a post new atheism era. You get the likes of Cosmic Skeptic, right? Alex O'Connor, people who are like not going to be falling for simplistic narratives like Hitchens. Like, he recently made a video in which he was criticizing Hitchens and saying, these arguments were weak, this is sophistry, this is that. So he's obviously different to the new atheists as well. So you're getting all these different people, all these different ideas, and the system and the power and the attraction that they had a few years ago is going down. I've even met some atheists, militant atheists, who've become Christian. Like, they even turn into Christianity. And Jordan Peterson's of course a Christian, and he doesn't say it so openly, publicly. Atheists are going towards him. I was recently watching, there's this famous atheist, and he said Jordan Peterson helped me come back to basically faith, right? Forgotten his name. But this is the thing, that the movement is dying. It's fractured. It's sectarian. It's breaking off into different branches. We still need to deal with the arguments, but that's what I feel is going on right now.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it from that perspective over the past 6 years, you say, that's looking at it from the atheist perspective, but from the Islamic perspective I feel that the Muslims are a lot more equipped now. They're a lot more educated about how to deal with atheism. I remember when you guys started first doing the courses, like Hamza, and the Muslims didn't have access to this knowledge. And I think you've got others like Abdullah Andalusi, Asadullah Al-Andalusi, many people who are kind of educating the Muslims how to deal with these doubts, how to think as a Muslim, especially, and how to think living in a secular society, and they're a lot more equipped now.
Absolutely.
The average Muslim, they get it.
They get it, and it kind of reminds me of, me and you are too young to remember the time when Muslims used to be unequipped against missionaries. Missionaries in the 60s and 70s and even up to the 80s, they literally used to traumatize the Muslims in South Africa, in Europe. They used to come up to Muslims and say the Bible says this, the Quran says this, the Quran is wrong because of this. And then in comes along Sheikh Ahmed Deedat, rahimahullah, and he just batters them. He just batters them, and he's like the trailblazer, And after him, you get everybody who's like ready to, take on Christians.
It gives people the confidence. Enough knowledge to kind of have an answer.
And there's people alive today who I would say, maybe I'm wrong, but they have perhaps even more knowledge than Sheikh Ahmed Deedat in some parts of the Bible, in some areas of Christianity, in some in the genesis of the Trinity. They probably have more knowledge than him, but he was the trailblazer. and he was a live wire, and he was very animated, and he's the one who created this thing. I believe the same sort of thing is happening. It hasn't fully happened yet within the atheist.
See, you have to realize as well, this is a new phenomenon, bro. Only the past 100 years have we had a situation where Islam doesn't have a leadership as a whole, right?
Yeah.
You know, and so now you have Muslims which are living in non-Muslim lands. They're becoming, a part of the society. They're being born into the society as well. And now you're at the stage where now you have to call to your religion, and we're given the permission. We have the permission and the freedom to convey Islam. And now it took someone like Ahmadiyya to step up and start that process. And I don't think there's anyone involved in Dawa, especially in the West, that can't say that Ahmadiyya has had something to do with their,
absolutely.
SubhanAllah. I mean, I remember having every single Ahmadiyya quote and reference, right, written down. It was like that thick, bro, and it would be in my top pocket, in my coat. It was so thick that maybe if I got shot, it would save me, and it was just very inspiring and empowering. To see this brown man, just smash, some white academic Christian.
And these were big guns.
And hold his own as well.
Hold his own. But also, it was not just to do with his. It was not just to do with his knowledge. It's to do with his style. I mean, he would just debate, and he'd be like, "It's this English. What are you talking about?" Like, he would add some spice to it. He'd give Muslims confidence. I'm hugely inspired by him. There's other people who have this view that no, what we need a really boring academic approach to taking on atheism. I'm like, no, man. We need to make it entertaining. We need to show people that. In fact, I said this to somebody yesterday, and they were a bit surprised. I said this to Ali Dawa, in fact, yesterday. I said, if I was given a choice of being an atheist and a Christian, of some sort of Christian, even a Unitarian Christian like Isaac Newton, right? I'd be a Christian. I would not be an atheist, because atheism makes no sense. So in the same way that Muslims are hugely inspired by Sheikh Ahmadiyya and they're ready to go and take on a Christian, it's just a matter of time that atheism's going to be in the same boat. It's just a matter of equipping them, teaching them the genealogy, teaching them the ridiculous implications of atheism. And alhamdulillah, what I'm really happy about is already we're starting to see new faces in the dawah.
Now, I wanted to ask you about the approach to dealing with atheists, especially, and say the past couple of years. The debates have started taking place. You've done a few debates yourself. Hamza Hijab. Hamza's done a couple before. I know Hamza's not really into the debates anymore. But, I mean, you see, you have this time of YouTube, people have access to everything, right? Usually, people would go to the bookshop before. They would buy a book at their particular level. So if you're an intermediate level of Islam, you would buy something a bit more academic. If you're new to Islam, you'd buy, something that's a bit more basic. In this day and age, like someone with a large following like yourself, hijab, even me, I've got a small following, right? But I'm very aware of my audience, that they're at a particular level. So I kind of keep my content at that particular level, even though maybe I might give lectures at a different level now and then on different topics. But I'm aware of my online audience. Now, what do you think about the YouTubers when they kind of jump in from audience to audience? So 1 minute they're doing a very basic video, which is obviously aimed at,
average Muslim.
An average Muslim or even a non-Muslim. And the next minute they're debating an academic. I mean, yourself, for instance, 1 minute you're having a very intellectual debate, but sometimes the audience are tuning into this debate, and someone who's at a very basic level might actually get confused or have doubts. What would you recommend to the followers? An advice to the followers of us, people like us who are online giving dawah, and how they should kind of seek knowledge or even consume on YouTube?
So that's a very, very good question. But I want to sort of answer a question before that. So before that, the question is, who should be giving dawah, and who should be? Why should you be following this stuff and watching this stuff? The reason why I'm saying that is because when you have a solid foundation, then it doesn't even matter if you watch something a bit confusing because you're watching two people go at it about a certain topic, and the other, because when we're recording, you're getting the other side's argument and our argument. So it depends on who's watching. Now, if we have Muslims who are like, they're hardly praying, they're just barely praying there 5 times a day, very little knowledge of Islam, and they just go and watch these videos, I can anticipate them getting confused and be like, well, I didn't really know that. I'm not really sure about this. What is this? What is that? So my first thing, which I always tell people, and it sounds like a broken record, but I think it's very important. Every single Muslim, regardless whether you're involved in dawah or not, you should have a grounding in Islam. You should understand what is the Islamic creed, what do we believe, what is our worldview. And when you get that solid under your belt, that is going to be a preservation in terms of any issues that you have, whether it's high level or another level. And the other thing is, you have to indoctrinate yourself with the Quran. You have to indoctrinate yourself, meaning you have to be able to understand the way, the system of thought the Quran wants you to accept. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that you should be able to understand what Allah is speaking to you about and to be able to articulate it. This only comes if you are a serious student of the Quran. You regularly read the Quran, not only the translation, you read the tafsir, you watch lectures on it. Why? Because that's going to be a preservation for you. When those people go and watch the intellectual stuff, or they watch the basic stuff, they're unaffected. The other people who jump in the deep end, and this has even happened with some reverts, that they accepted Islam and they just started watching speaker corner videos, like deep, confusing issues sometimes, and then they're like, they think Islam is about dealing with these contentions. It's not. They're not grounded. So I always remind people, your knowledge of the creed of Islam, your knowledge of the Quran, the tafsir of the Quran, what Allah wants you to know, that comes first. Then these other things, because I think one of the other issues is, I want a dawah. Yeah, I want to make dawah. I want to do dawah. Yeah, but that's fine. But think about yourself. Like, one of the things that you told me is, when you started, you had somebody teaching you, Brother Salim, he was teaching you, and you mentioned to me that you had an incubation period, and then you had a gradual, and then nowadays, and then it took you, like, after a long time, then you came in front of the camera. I think in the beginning, I'm not even sure if you took pictures. I don't even think you had pictures or anything, right?
I mean, I initially we were giving dawah on the streets for about 7 years before anything YouTube and things.
So you went on a gradual route. There's other people who are barely practicing, get a camera, make a video, and for me that's unacceptable. You cannot do that, because you have to go through the incubation period.
See, this is a big test of kind of sincerity for the followers, the people who are consuming content online. Is why are you watching this debate in particular? Why are you watching Speaker's Corner? Is it for you at this particular time? And if you're new to Islam or newly practicing, you should maybe spend your time on seeking knowledge on the basics, reading a book or watching some lectures that are actually teaching the foundations of Islam first, and then slowly you can move on to different topics. I think that's a good advice. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, another way of thinking about it is,
the thing is, I'll be honest, like the past week, I've got, there's a lot going on in the Dawa right now, a lot of controversial things. I'll admit that I've been getting many more messages recently, inbox messages from Muslims who are having doubts because of the recent
where each camp
controversy. And to be quite honest, I feel like I kind of got this feeling that I don't have any time for these people who are messaging me, and I kind of lost my rag a bit.
Yeah.
And I said to the brother that some of these questions, I'm saying, brother, like, you're having this doubt because you're watching the wrong content. Like,
learn your religion first.
If you even read a very basic Dawa pamphlet on Islam, you won't have this question. And you want me to answer this question, you should go and read and study the religion.
I don't
even answer it.
Yeah, this is very, very good. It reminds me of
They don't want to put the time in, but they want a quick answer.
They want to jump on this. So a few years ago, I met this young Muslim guy, and he was saying about a particular guy, scholar, who was off the manhaj, another guy this, and this guy made this video refutation, and he wanted my opinion. So I said to him, and he was maybe 21 years old, and I said to him, have you read the Quran in a language you understand from cover to cover? He said, no. I said, you're asking me these controversial topics, is this guy right? Is this guy off the manhaj? And you haven't read the Quran. Like, he literally had not finished reading even the Quran. And reading it once is nothing. You have to indoctrinate yourself. You have to read it all the time. You have to understand what the meanings are. And that's basic. And then you move on to so many other topics. And here's a guy who's talking about this guy's off the manhaj because this guy made a refutation. And I'm like, brother, wake up. What are you talking about?
You're at level 1.
You're level 0. You haven't entered the race. And you're like, you want to do this. Something else that
I think this is one thing that Ayer has been known for. When especially in the early days, really focusing on that basic Dawa. A lot of your Dawa material. He inspired me to make my own Dawa material. Having basic Dawa material that the average Muslim and even non-Muslim can understand.
Basics are super important. We also have to understand something as Muslims.
There's a lack of impatience. Very impatient. Just wanting quick answers. But also the videos people want to watch are more about entertainment. Really, it's
entertainment.
No one can deny Hyde Park is one of the most entertaining things to watch. Get your popcorn. I'm here for the comments. And binge Hyde Park. But realistically, the reason you guys go there is to defend Islam from these atheists, etc. And people, there is a reason for that. But I'm sure that you guys don't intend this to be for the lay people. Not at all.
I mean, we're there to. I mean, somebody who's going to say, "Why are you going to speak to the same atheist this week, or same Christian missionary like Hashim Mansour do?" They're talking to a totally different audience. The next week that video comes online. However, and this is the thing which is very important to understand. Take someone like Mansour. Someone like Mansour who studied Arabic formally, he has a strong grounding in Islam. He was giving dawah for years before the new cameras came into Speaker's Corner and everybody started filming. I mean, I remember, if Mansour's been giving dawah in Speaker's Corner, I think we're over 20 years now, easily. We're talking about the 90s to now. And only in the last, say, 3-4 years has there been cameras on this guy, and everyone's like, subhanallah, how on earth this guy has so much knowledge? I want to be like him. They don't see the decade, or more than a decade, that he was in Speaker's Corner making dawah without any pictures, without any videos, him learning Arabic, him learning all the stuff that he needs to do that. Mansoor is the type of person who will always continuously learn. They'll continuously go and learn about an issue, come back. But they want to jump the gun. It's kind of like staring at Arnold Schwarzenegger while eating a cake and saying, why am I not like that? Well, you're not like that because it took him a long time. Plus, the other question I have is people are like, I want to give dawah. And I'm like, Bismillah, amazing. Yeah, I want to make videos. It's like, no, that's not dawah. Dawah is you calling your neighbor in your locality, Facebook, if I was to break down, if I was to go up into space and home down and all the red spots are where people are giving dawah, it's not going to be videos, it's going to be one-to-one interactions, no cameras, nothing. One of the negative sides of the dawah scene at the moment is everybody seems to think dawahs with a Canon 250D, with a good Rode mic, and you're refuting somebody. That's not the dawah of the Prophet ﷺ. That's not the dawah of the Sahaba. Look at Abdullah bin Umar radiallahu anhu. He traveled to Africa to convey Islam. He traveled to the Caucasus region. Imagine the heat of Africa to the cold of Russia, essentially, right? And we even have from him that he combined prayers for 6 months. We have this in Bukhari because he was out there, right? And look at him. He's going and he's explaining to people about Islam. He's calling to Allah. What were the Muslims doing in Ethiopia? What were the Muslims doing in Central Asia? What were they doing? They were conveying Islam. Like everybody at the moment, what's the number one program in the world, in the Muslim world at the moment?
You remind me.
Okay.
What?
Portugal. That's number one. Okay. Number one. Some people hate it.
I thought it was Ali Dawa.
Okay. Some people watch it. Some people don't watch it. Some people hate it. Some people love it. A lot of people love it. Anyway, anyone ever considered how did the Turks come to Islam? No one's asking that question. We all talk about Ertugrul, Seljuk Empire, Ottomans and all this. How did they come to Islam? They came to Islam not through warfare, not through conquest. They came to Islam through missionaries, Muslims who went out to convey Islam in Central Asia. Nothing to do with the sword. You know what the Orientalists say. Yeah. And they're the people who led to the Seljuks, led to the Ottomans, and then, we have the huge history of the Turks. And their culture is almost like their culture is Islam. Their culture is Islam, right? The Uyghurs and all the other people. So what it is, that is the Dawa. It's not YouTube. YouTube is like just one small percentage of the Dawa. The real Dawa is the people in Sub-Saharan Africa, the stuff that you see in Freetown, the stuff that you see in Sierra Leone, in Uganda, in Rwanda, in Malawi, in Manchester, where you have people like Ghulam doing the Manchester New Muslim Network. Stuff without any cameras. That's the true Dawa. This other stuff is just...
it's interesting you speak about that. When I was in Pakistan with Adnan Rashid, he got me this book, The Preaching of Islam.
Thomas Arnold,
yeah. Amazing book, right? And of course, I think it was authored in Pakistan because he was a lecturer of Iqbal.
I didn't know that.
Thomas Arnold, yeah.
Right.
And it notes how Islam spread through all these countries, and it notes in the introduction that it's not through the sword. That when it was spread through the sword, the wrong way, these people converted back.
And that was un-Islamic in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. But then he notes how they found Islam themselves again.
Yeah.
And subhanAllah, like you say, the real dawah of just literally missionary work, calling people. There was no YouTube back then. Literally unsung heroes working for the sake of Allah.
Even if you look at Sheikh Abdul Rahman Sumait, what did he do? He went all across Africa conveying Islam. Millions of people came to Islam. I've met, and you've been to Africa way more than I have, I've met people in Africa who nobody knows. But wallahi, these are soldiers of Allah. These are people on the ground who are spending their time, their money, their effort, they're extinguishing themselves. It's like a burning candle in the path of Allah. No YouTube, no nothing. They don't want a like. Why don't I have a following? So many people came to Islam because of me. I spent all this money. I've given up my family. I've come here. There are people from other parts of the Muslim world who physically live in Africa and they've decided to stay there. I know one of the brothers from Latin America. Before I can mention him because we've mentioned his story before. He is from Tunisia. He went to go live in Honduras. No cameras, no videos, no nothing. He used to do all his dawah. And many, many people came to Islam because of him, and his wife is a Honduran convert to Islam. And all of his effort, who's there to sing his praises? He doesn't want that. He wants Allah. And I truly believe the best callers to Allah are the ones who are hidden. No one knows them, no one will know them, except Allah. Why? For few reasons. Number one, your technique is based upon what is best, not what looks good on camera. Number two, you're most likely to be sincere because you're going to be facing people who reject you, facing difficulties. Number three, you are in an environment in which your main obstacle is conveying Islam. When we're doing our YouTube dawah, it's kind of like, I don't like this guy, he made a refutation against me. It's a very, catty world.
And I'd advise the people to just kind of stay away from it.
Absolutely.
If it's not for you, it's for. You have to understand that these controversial videos where the Muslims have disagreements with each other, these videos are for a very particular audience. they might be relevant for a handful of people who understand the debate that's going on or the problems that need to be addressed publicly. But for the majority of Muslims, especially we've been out in the field, we've seen the situation of the Muslims, the level that the Muslims are at, facing these doubts, not knowing the basics of Islam. I was with Brother Hamza from the Islamic Network, is it?
Yep.
Young
guy.
Young brother from, they do a lot of youth work, right?
Yeah.
And he was telling me that at some of their events, you may have like 100 youth, and only a handful actually admit that they know how to pray.
Yeah. They don't know the basics.
And that's the kind of level we're at, which is fine, but we have to teach them. Somebody like that, you have to recognize that if you're sincere to Allah, and you really want to get closer to Allah, you have to really analyze and choose your videos wisely, because you're going to be,
not only this,
getting distracted.
Yeah, if we look at the way that Muslims operate or should operate on YouTube compared to non-Muslims, right? So if you have, a non-Muslim channel, which is like, what I mean when non-Muslim is the ones who do their own calling, right? They call to Christianity or atheism, whatever. So they're about content hits, likes, content hits, likes, doesn't matter. A Muslim has to do something very different. They have to be like, okay, so I'm online, I need to give dawah. However, okay, now I need to step back. Okay, now this is outside of my lane. Okay, this person's already doing that, I shouldn't do that. Okay, now I feel my intention isn't good, so I'll stop. So I'll give you an example of your channel, right? So your channel back in 2014, that purple-haired guy, I've forgotten his name, The Game or something, you made a video with him that went viral. And your channel was growing. What did you do? When your algorithm's growing, you stopped. And I've seen you do that a few times. And I know a few other Muslim brothers who do the same thing, that their channel's growing and they stop. And they relax. And they don't make a video for perhaps 6, 7 months, 8 months, thinking you're killing your channel's algorithm. And then they'll come back and make a video. And when you speak to some of them, and I spoke to one of the brothers, I'm not going to say his name, but he's a beautiful brother. And he's got a really, really good channel. And sometimes he stops for a few months. So I was speaking to him about this, and he said, look, I have to stop. Look what's going on. And he wants to do things for the sake of Allah. So he doesn't like to just churn out content.
For the
sake of it. Yeah. Which if we wanted to do, we'd just all day, all night, your channels would be much, much bigger. Your audience would be much, much greater. But where would the sincerity be? You know what I mean? You'd get very much affected by that fame and, like you, when I walk out with you, it's like, Brother John, yeah? And then over time you start to realize I don't want this. I'm doing this for Allah, I really don't want this.
I wanted to speak to you about your interactions with Cosmic Skeptic. I really enjoyed the interactions you had with him on a positive way. I quite like Cosmic Skeptic. He seems like a nice brother, not brother, but non-Muslim guy. But he, he seems quite fair.
Yeah.
Of course, and you kind of had some interaction, didn't you?
Yeah. I mean, I'm very I'm of the belief that you should meet people with the same energy that they come at you with, right? So I, of course, don't agree with him. So I'll disagree with him. I'll refute him. I'll say you're wrong, But at the same time, I'll be like, okay, let's be amicable. Let's be this. Let's be that. Before the debate in Oxford, we went off for a walk because I turned up at the debate a bit early. He was there early. We both went around talking, having something to eat. Came back, got his WhatsApp number. Then later on, when there were some issues online, I just WhatsApped him. I was on a live stream. I just said, do you mind jumping on? He jumped on. At short notice, had a nice discussion. Then recently, me and Hijab made a bit of a reaction video, laughing at him and stuff, which, to be honest, then I felt a bit bad at. Then, I was talking to him, and then I was like, oh, you're making me feel bad, So anyway, it's not making me feel bad, but you know what I mean? It was just like, I have to, as a Muslim, say, I believe you're wrong. Where I find an opportunity to refute the person, I do it. But at the same time, I still want to have a nice relationship.
You don't want to make an enemy out of somebody, and sometimes you can push someone to be a Dawkins, and Cosmic Skeptic is not like that.
No,
he's a nice guy.
I'm glad you recognize that, because a lot of Muslims don't. You see, a lot of Muslims, they get very defensive, and they're like, all these guys are the same. Now, I said this before, and I've said this on Twitter, I said it publicly, and I'll say it again. I said, look, this guy, he is actually probably one of the best and the most honest atheists. Why? He'll disagree with Hitchens. He'll disagree with Sam Harris, right? He will retract his statements, and he will say, I said this, I'm wrong. For example, I had him on my Darwinian delusions, and I said to him, you made this video about Muslim women, and you said a note to women in bags.
He apologized,
and he said I took it down. I changed the name. Sorry, a note to on the niqab or something, and then I didn't know he did that. So I was like, whoa, I read him wrong again. So
he also, I seen that actually.
Yeah,
and I felt like he learned something at that point in that particular podcast he was having.
Yeah.
Because he said, I can actually see how that can have a negative effect on Muslims.
And not only this, if we look at say the intellectual atheists, right? Take Michael Roos, take Stephen Law. These guys are atheists. They do believe atheism is correct, but they have such a approach to atheism, such an approach to these interactions, that they will not use quick win arguments. They will not use these sweeping generalizations. They'll try and be more nuanced.
You want to be more academic.
Right? And he's being like that. And I actually said to him that, I can see you being more like Stephen Law, and you should move away from new atheism. To be fair, I think he's not like that anyway. He wouldn't go down that lane. But I do see someone like him in a few years' time potentially being bigger than Dawkins. I think that's possible. So if we have somebody like that as an opponent, then we should have a relationship where you could basically refute him, he can refute you, but it's not going to be like what happened with you and Dawkins, where Dawkins
trying to strangle me.
He's trying to strangle your camera guy, or whatever he tried to do. Right, when the footage comes out, people will see for themselves. And I'm of the big view that I believe I can read people. That when someone has a good vibe, bad vibe, and this type of thing, I can see someone like him changing his positions many times, even potentially coming to Islam. Like, I have that belief.
This is the thing, we want to give them enough room to come to Islam. You don't want to push them so far away that it's like there's no going back. There's some people that they've done so much, it's going to be very difficult for them to change their position. Someone like Dawkins, who's made a whole career off attacking Islam. Inshallah, he's still alive. He has the potential to come to Islam. But what I'm saying is, he's so, he's just, he's made a whole career writing books about Islam and everything. It's difficult for them to change that.
Some of these atheists, they can be real assets, right? So look at Cosmic Skeptic. He's probably...
I actually really hope he comes to Islam.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But even if he doesn't come to Islam, check this out, right? So he's got like maybe 300,000 whatever followers. I'm not sure what it is on, but he's getting up there. I spoke to him about the situation in East Turkestan, right? And I said, this is what's happening to the Uyghurs. He was open to the idea of making a video on this topic. So, I even invited him to share one of the videos or something like this. So the thing is, look, this is a guy, use him. Now, when it comes to Aaron Ra, I have a totally different approach with him. Why? Because he's not of the same, intellectual caliber. He's not there to, have this intellectual dialogue. He wants to make sweeping generalizations. He wants to attack. He wants to do these things. And, in the Dawa, we got to move away from these, simplistic ways of, all atheists are the same. Because Allah says in the Quran, people are different. Yeah. So we should try to make allies where we can as well.
Jazakallah khair. I really appreciated your. I enjoyed watching, the interactions and the debates, and I could feel that you have a bit of a relationship with him. And I've mutual, like, intellectually, I respect him for being way more honest than any of these guys. Even people like James White, although I wouldn't agree with him.
That's a very good analogy.
But he's very different to somebody like this David Wood. Or Jay Smith.
That's a good analogy.
They have they have relationships with Muslims. Not that, I'm a big fan of James White at all, I disagree on a lot of what he does, but what I'm saying is they're not the same.
And this is why also I wanted to explain about why my approach to Alex is different to Muhammad Hijab. So Muhammad Hijab, they were going back and forth. I rang Hijab, I said, listen, this guy is not what you think he is. I explained all this stuff, and then Hijab took off some of the stuff he had online. Then again they were going back and forth, and again I contacted Hijab. I said, bro, don't do this. Basically what I was doing was, I didn't want to, I know Hijab, he likes to refute people and he likes to do his stuff, but I wanted him to see that, okay, I think you misread him, and obviously he has his view, I have my view, but I actually believe that my reading of him is that the best way of approaching this guy is, having an approach that you can refute him as much as you want, you can go for it, but keep it on good terms. Keep it on good terms.
And that's what I was afraid of, because the way it was working out with Hijab, I didn't want people to push him to the point of no return. Where you create this enemy,
but I'll tell you this, right? He wouldn't do that anyway. I mean, the guy, I don't know what if it's more than one module, but he's doing philosophy at Oxford and theology and philosophy or something, and he's actually studying Islamic philosophy and stuff. Even some of his recent YouTube clips, you can see he's got some Islamic books.
I was seeing, I think it was your podcast with him, he was saying he's been learning about the Islamic history of science, and he's quite impressed with the contribution. That Islam has
I don't think it was the contribution, but about the tradition or something. I don't remember exactly. But look, this is the thing, John, that, we have to, as Muslims, realize, okay, this guy is different to this guy, so let's have a different approach with him. Yeah.
Jazakallah khair, bro. It's been a nice
podcast.
Podcast. Nice to meet you again after all this time. And
I want to ask you a question. Okay. I want to ask you a question. So you've been off the radar for a while. You've been busy. What's happening with the book? What's going on? People have been waiting 6 years.
Well, I'll tell you what's happening with the book. I've been waiting for your book. I'll be honest with you, right? I know Ayera were working on a book about the philosophy of science. Yeah, that's not released. I think you were working on something. And I was kind of wanting to,
use that as a reference.
Yeah, I want to kind of see what you guys are doing. Make sure that I'm not going to release something that's contradictory, or maybe I've misunderstood a point. I can also benefit from them books as well. So, and there's no rushing Dawa, bro. Why are we rushing? Bro, I'm 34, man. I know I look 50, right? But what is the rush? Even if it takes another 20 years, bro, who am I? Does Islam need my book? No,
that's true.
And the point is that even if it doesn't come out, how many scholars burnt some books they wrote, because they felt they weren't sincere.
They weren't sincere,
not saying I'm a scholar, I'm just saying, it's like, there's no rush, bro. And I really think that even your Dawa and Hamza, when you began atheism, your approach and your knowledge of it has changed over the years. You've also retracted statements and points which you used to teach, and as I said, we want it to come out as a final product, your book and my book and the Ayera books. We don't want to have to recall books. We want to make sure that we've got the correct knowledge, also get it reviewed by scholars. Dr. Bilal's actually reading the book at the moment, The God's Solution.
Nice.
I've given him, he likes it actually. He really likes it. At first, he was going to kind of answer all the small answers, the small doubts. Originally, I was maybe going to remove a lot of that, and Dr. Bilal likes it. He said, you should maybe keep that in and make it like a reference. And also, I've been working on Jesus and the Injil, which is more about Christianity, the Islamic perspective, revelation, that type of thing. Again, Dr. Bilal's on board with that. I've gone through that with him and other scholars as well. So I've been working more on books, because all these YouTube videos, bro, they last for a week. People watch them for a week, and that's it. It's like that video I reposted that Dawkins video about the red apple, That's like a 5-year-old video. People are like, this is an old video. Yeah, it's an old video.
The content's good.
They still benefit, right? But people are like, yeah, but it's old, you know. And that's the nature of YouTube. It's like the videos last a week. After that, they're not relevant.
Yeah.
But books, they can stay on the planet for hundreds of years, bro.
Yeah.
And people can be benefiting. And I would rather work on something, inshallah, with sincerity, knowing that the information is correct, knowing that I've done what I can, and then when it goes out there, it's going to do more of a job. And also, like yourself, actually practically using these arguments and the methodology in Dawa, consulting scholars with these points, and it adds to the research as well.
Absolutely.
So, and again, a lot of my Dawa is in Africa. You know, I'm working on some projects in Africa right now to do with education. And as I said, you know, we don't have to promote our good deeds. A lot of what we do should be behind closed doors. And the only thing really I'm trying to promote is this podcast, you know, just, you know, and, you know, people can watch it if they want, if they don't. I don't really care. Bro, I do not care about views, bro. Wallahi, I don't care. If you look at my YouTube video, I get like a few hundred views. It doesn't matter, bro. Like, someone will benefit.
Yeah.
You know, and I really do, you know, the online, you know me from day one, but I've never liked YouTube, bro. In fact, it was you guys that got me on YouTube.
Yeah, yeah.
I went to Africa with Adnan Rashid, his student Dawa, man, right?
Okay, now we're getting into some.
No, I'm saying, right? I went to Dawa with, I went to Pakistan with Adnan Rashid, Imran, Hamza, Musa Adnan, Yusuf Chambers, Hamza Zotsis, right? With all you guys, I never had a Facebook at that point. Adnan Rashid, Dawa man, Ali Dawa, all you guys like, you have to get a Facebook. I'm like, why? You know, you have to get YouTube. I'm like, why? You know, so, you know, that's kind of why I went online. And, but you know me, I've always tried to...
Yeah, just be on the surface.
And I advise people, if you're involved in Dawa, you know, not everything has to be public, you know. Save something for Allah.
Absolutely.
Jazakallah khair, bro. It's been a pleasure to see you, bro.
Absolutely, man.
And hopefully we'll do something else in the future.
Inshallah. Jazakallah
And I'm
khair.
waiting for your books.
Inshallah.
Jazakallah khair.
Assalamu alaikum.
إنك لا تهدي من أحببت ولكن الله يهدي من يشاء